Emily Carter sat in her dimly lit apartment, the weight of exhaustion pressing on her shoulders as she sorted through an overwhelming pile of overdue bills. The hum of the refrigerator and the soft breaths of her 10-year-old son, Liam, sleeping on the couch were the only sounds in the room. She had promised him they would be okay, that things would get better, but as she stared at the bold red letters screaming, "Final Notice," on one of the envelopes, she wasn't sure how much longer she could keep that promise. Emily had always been a fighter, a woman who refused to back down, but life had thrown more at her than she could handle. It started with Liam's unexpected medical expenses, hospital bills stacking up after an emergency surgery that her insurance barely covered. Desperate to pay them off, she had taken out a high-interest loan, not realizing it would only dig her deeper into the pit of financial despair. As if that weren't enough, her former landlord sued her for alleged property damages after she moved out, slapping her with legal fees she had no way of paying. The case was unfair, but without proper legal representation, she lost, and the judge ordered her to pay restitution. With every passing month, the debt grew larger, until it ballooned to an unimaginable $400,000. Creditors called her day and night, their relentless threats invading every moment of her life. "If you don't pay, we'll seize your assets," one had told her that morning. But what assets? She had already sold her car, her jewelry, and anything of value to scrape together rent. She worked 3 jobs, serving tables at a diner in the mornings, cleaning offices in the evenings, and driving for a rideshare service late at night, but it was never enough. Her body ached, her mind raced, and sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford. Every time she looked at Liam, his innocent face filled with trust and hope, she felt the crushing guilt of her failure. He didn't know the full extent of their struggles, she hid as much as she could, but he noticed the empty fridge, the skipped meals, the stress lines etched into her face. "Mom, why don't you sleep more?" he had asked one night, his small hands brushing her arm as she sat at the kitchen table with a calculator, trying to make sense of numbers that never added up. "Because I have to work, sweetheart," she had answered, forcing a smile. "I have to make sure we're okay." But they weren't okay. They were drowning. And now, the final blow had arrived, a court summons, a lawsuit from one of her creditors demanding immediate payment. The letter trembled in her hands as she read it over and over, hoping she had misunderstood. She hadn't. If she didn't pay, they would take everything, her wages, her apartment, even her meager savings. The thought of losing the tiny space she and Liam called home made her stomach twist with fear. With no lawyer, no resources, and no hope, she was out of options. She had to face the judge alone. She had fought for so long, but this battle? This one she might not win. Emily Carter stood outside the courthouse, gripping the worn leather straps of her handbag so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The morning sun cast long shadows across the pavement, but she felt no warmth. Today was the day, her final hearing, the moment where everything she had fought to hold onto could be stripped away. She took a shaky breath, glancing at the towering building before her. It felt cold and unwelcoming, a place where people like her didn't stand a chance. As she stepped inside, she clutched the thin stack of papers in her hands, her last-ditch effort to prove she wasn't trying to evade her debts, that she just needed more time. But deep down, she knew the truth. The law wasn't on her side. The courtroom was nearly empty except for a few people waiting for their own hearings and the legal representatives for the debt collection agency. They were seated confidently, dressed in expensive suits, their expressions unreadable but intimidating. Emily swallowed hard as the opposing attorney, a sharp-jawed man named Richard Coleman, eyed her with barely concealed disdain. He had made it clear from their last hearing that he had no sympathy for her, no patience for her pleas. He was here to win, to ensure his clients got their money, no matter the human cost. "All rise," the bailiff called, and the judge entered, an older man with a stoic expression that revealed nothing. Emily rose alongside the others, feeling the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights pressing on her chest. Case number 2024, CV 1378, Carter vs. Financial Recovery Group, the clerk announced. "Ms. Carter, are you prepared to represent yourself?" the judge asked. Emily's voice felt trapped in her throat, but she nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." Richard Coleman wasted no time. "Your Honor, my clients have been more than patient with Ms. Carter. She has failed to meet the terms of her financial obligations and has accrued a debt of over $400,000, including penalties. We are simply requesting that the court enforce the terms of repayment as agreed. Emily inhaled sharply. She had expected this. Your Honor, she said, forcing her voice to remain steady, I am not refusing to pay my debts. I have been working tirelessly, juggling multiple jobs just to keep my son and me afloat. I have tried to negotiate for more time, but the lenders refused any compromise. If they seize my wages, I will have nothing left for rent or food. I just need. Coleman cut her off, his voice smooth but ruthless. With all due respect, Ms. Carter's personal hardships do not change the legally binding nature of her agreements. If she is unable to pay, then the next legal step must be taken. Emily's hands trembled. The judge sighed, flipping through the case file. Ms. Carter, the court sympathizes with financial hardship, but the law is clear. Without a formal arrangement or proof of predatory lending practices, I have little choice but to rule in favor of the plaintiff. Her heart pounded. This was it. She had lost. But then, something unexpected happened. A soft murmur rippled through the few people in the gallery. Someone, a young man with a phone in his hands, had been quietly live-streaming the entire proceeding. Unbeknownst to Emily, the video was already circulating across social media. Yo, this is crazy, the young man whispered into his mic. This woman's getting destroyed in court over some predatory debt. Look at her, she's been working her ass off, and they don't even care. The comments section exploded. #JusticeForEmily started trending within minutes. People who had struggled with debt, single parents, and even financial experts jumped into the discussion. The stream caught the attention of some major influencers and financial activists, who quickly reshared it, fueling outrage. The video reached millions of people in real time, including one particularly unexpected viewer. Sitting in his office, sipping his morning coffee, Elon Musk scrolled through his X feed. His sharp eyes locked onto the viral post, and curiosity piqued. He clicked on the video. As he watched the courtroom unfold, his expression darkened. This wasn't just an issue of debt, it was about a system designed to keep people trapped in financial ruin. Something about Emily's resilience, her fight to protect her son, and the sheer unfairness of it all resonated with him. He had been there before, sleeping on couches, struggling to make something of himself. He tapped his phone, calling his legal team. Find out everything about this case. Now. Back in the courtroom, the judge cleared his throat. Ms. Carter, as it stands, I have no alternative but to proceed with the judgment. The courtroom doors burst open. A sharply dressed man entered, carrying a thick briefcase. Your Honor, I represent an interested party who wishes to provide legal counsel to Ms. Carter. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Who was this? She had no one. The man turned to her, offering a reassuring nod. Ms. Carter, my name is Thomas Grant. I'm a senior legal counsel with a firm that has taken an interest in your case. We would like to represent you, pro bono. The opposing lawyer frowned. This is highly irregular, Your Honor. Actually, Thomas interrupted smoothly, placing a thick file on the judge's desk. What is irregular is the predatory nature of these loans and the illegal penalties attached. We have evidence that Financial Recovery Group has violated federal lending regulations, and we request an immediate review before any further legal action is taken. The judge raised an eyebrow, flipping through the documents. Emily could barely breathe. This was too surreal. Who had sent this lawyer? Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Pulling it out with shaking hands, she nearly dropped it when she saw the name trending at the top of social media. Elon Musk. Her fingers trembled as she clicked on his latest post. Financial predators like these ruin lives. Time to level the playing field. Stay tuned. Emily's knees nearly buckled. Had the richest man in the world just taken an interest in her case? The courtroom murmured louder, the press who had trickled in scrambling to capture this unexpected development. For the first time in years, Emily felt something she had almost forgotten. Oh. Emily Carter sat in stunned silence as the courtroom erupted into whispers and murmurs. The judge peered down at the legal documents presented by the unknown lawyer, his expression unreadable. The opposing attorney, Richard Coleman, looked visibly irritated, flipping through his own papers in a desperate attempt to counter the sudden turn of events. Emily could barely process what had just happened. One moment, she had been preparing to lose everything, and the next, a top-tier lawyer had walked in to defend her, claiming an interested party had taken an interest in her case. And now Elon Musk, the Elon Musk, had just tweeted about financial predation, hinting that something big was about to happen. Her mind reeled. Why would someone like Musk care about a struggling single mother drowning in debt? Why her? She had never met him, never interacted with him. It made no sense. Meanwhile, thousands, no millions, of people across social media were glued to their screens, watching as her case became a national spectacle. News outlets were already picking up the story, running headlines like Elon Musk hints at major financial reform after viral court case, and billionaire's cryptic tweet spark speculation in high-stakes debt lawsuit. But Emily had no idea that, at that very moment, Elon Musk himself was already in action. Sitting in his private office at SpaceX, Musk leaned back in his chair, eyes flicking between multiple screens filled with legal documents, financial reports, and live social media reactions. His personal assistant, Jared, stood nearby, phone in hand. "She's clean," Jared reported. "No criminal record. No fraud. Just a regular single mom who got crushed by an unfair system. Her debt started with medical bills, then snowballed due to predatory lending. The interest rates alone are borderline illegal." Musk nodded, rubbing his chin. "I had a feeling. Financial Recovery Group. Who owns them?" Jared typed rapidly on his laptop. "It's a holding of Horizon Capital, a private equity firm known for buying distressed debt and squeezing people dry. They operate in legal gray areas. Technically, what they do is within the law, but morally, it's borderline extortion." Musk's lips pressed into a thin line. "Not anymore." He picked up his phone and made a call. "Get me the best corporate and financial fraud lawyers in the country. I want every inch of Horizon Capital and Financial Recovery Group scrutinized. If they've done anything illegal, we'll expose it. If they've exploited loopholes, we'll close them." Jared nodded. "Understood. Should I make a statement?" Musk thought for a moment, then smirked. "Not yet. Let's give them a little time to panic." Back in the courtroom, Emily's lawyer, Thomas Grant, cleared his throat. "Your Honor, given the severity of the allegations against Financial Recovery Group, we request a temporary injunction on any debt collection efforts against Ms. Carter until a full investigation is conducted." The judge glanced at the thick stack of documents before him. "This is highly unusual, but given the potential legal violations presented, I will grant a temporary suspension. We will reconvene in 1 week for further review." Emily's breath caught in her throat. 1 week. She had just been given 1 more week to fight. It wasn't over yet. As soon as the hearing adjourned, reporters swarmed the courthouse. Microphones and cameras flashed in Emily's face as journalists fired questions at her. "Ms. Carter, how does it feel to have Elon Musk take an interest in your case? Did you know he was watching? Has he reached out to you personally?" Emily was overwhelmed, stammering, I don't know why he's helping me. I didn't expect any of this." Across the country, social media was in an uproar. Some people speculated that Musk was planning a massive financial reform campaign, while others accused him of using the case for publicity. But those who had followed his past philanthropy knew better. When Musk decided to fix something, he didn't do it halfway. Meanwhile, at Horizon Capital's headquarters, executives scrambled in a panic. "Why the hell is Elon Musk involved in this case?" one of the senior partners demanded. "We don't know," another admitted. "But our legal team is getting calls. Something big is coming." Their worst fears were confirmed an hour later when Musk fired off another tweet. "Financial exploitation disguised as legal business is still exploitation. Time to shine a light on some shady practices. Watch closely." With that, he sent out another order to his legal team. "Find every victim of Horizon Capital and Financial Recovery Group. We're not just fighting for Emily Carter. We're fighting for all of them." Emily had no idea that her fight had just become something much bigger than herself. 1 week later, Emily Carter found herself standing outside the courthouse again, only this time, the atmosphere was completely different. A massive crowd had gathered, journalists, protesters, and curious onlookers all wanting to witness what had become a national sensation. News vans lined the street, their reporters delivering real-time updates to millions watching from home. The story had spiraled far beyond anything Emily could have imagined. What started as a desperate fight for survival had turned into a battleground for financial justice, and at the center of it all was Elon Musk. Emily clutched her son's hand, her heart pounding as she prepared to step inside. The past week had been a whirlwind. Since Musk's involvement, her case had drawn attention from lawmakers, consumer rights activists, and legal watchdogs. More victims of predatory lending had come forward, their stories flooding social media. People had begun demanding reform, and Musk had fueled the movement with his relentless pursuit of justice. But despite all this, Emily still didn't know exactly what Musk had planned. As she entered the courtroom, the tension was palpable. The judge took his seat, looking weary from the sheer amount of attention this case had drawn. On the other side of the courtroom, Richard Coleman, the ruthless attorney representing Financial Recovery Group, seemed more composed than before, but there was a nervous glint in his eyes. He had spent the past week trying to salvage his client's reputation, but the pressure was mounting. The proceedings began with the judge addressing the public spectacle that the case had become. Due to the unprecedented media coverage and new evidence brought forth, this case has taken on a significance far beyond this courtroom. I will remind both parties that, despite public opinion, my ruling will be based solely on the law. Coleman stood first, his voice calm but forceful. Your Honor, the facts remain unchanged. Ms. Carter is in debt. She signed binding agreements. While we sympathize with her struggles, financial hardship does not exempt one from their legal responsibilities. Emily clenched her fists. She had heard this argument too many times. But then, before her lawyer could respond, the doors to the courtroom swung open. A hush fell over the room as Elon Musk himself stepped inside. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Journalists scrambled to capture the moment, cameras flashing wildly. Even the judge looked momentarily stunned before regaining his composure. Musk, dressed in a sharp suit with his usual unbothered demeanor, walked to the defense table, where Emily sat frozen in disbelief. He leaned slightly toward her and offered a small nod before turning to the judge. Your Honor, with all due respect, I'd like to address this case personally. Coleman immediately objected. This is highly irregular. The judge raised a hand, silencing him. Mr. Musk, I assume you have a legal basis for being here. Musk's expression remained neutral. Absolutely. My legal team has been investigating this case extensively, and what we found is deeply concerning. He gestured to his lead attorney, Thomas Grant, who stepped forward and handed the judge a thick stack of documents. The courtroom was dead silent as the judge skimmed through the files. His eyebrows knitted together. This is serious. Musk folded his arms. It is. What we have here, Your Honor, is undeniable proof that Financial Recovery Group, along with their parent company Horizon Capital, has engaged in predatory lending practices, illegal interest rate manipulations, and deceptive loan agreements that violate federal regulations. Not just with Emily Carter, but with thousands of other victims. A wave of murmurs spread through the courtroom. Coleman shifted uncomfortably. The judge turned his gaze to him. Mr. Coleman, do you have a response? Coleman licked his lips, trying to maintain his composure. Your Honor, this is an attempt to derail a simple debt case. Any allegations of misconduct should be handled separately. Musk smirked. Actually, no. Because these illegal practices directly led to Ms. Carter's financial situation, which means your entire claim is built on fraudulent grounds. Coleman opened his mouth to object, but before he could speak, Musk continued, his voice unwavering. Furthermore, we filed a federal lawsuit against Horizon Capital and Financial Recovery Group. We're not just here to stop this one case. We're here to dismantle the entire operation. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, and even applause filled the space as the news broke. Reporters were already rushing to update their headlines. Social media exploded. The judge rubbed his temples, trying to maintain order. Mr. Musk, are you saying that this case is now part of a larger criminal investigation? Musk nodded. Yes. And until the results of that investigation are complete, we formally request that all legal action against Ms. Carter be dropped. Emily felt her breath hitch. Was this real? Was this really happening? The judge glanced at Coleman, whose confident demeanor had crumbled. He knew the weight of Musk's influence. If the billionaire had uncovered illegal activity, then this wasn't just about debt anymore. This was a corporate scandal. After a tense pause, the judge exhaled and made his ruling. In light of the new evidence and pending federal investigations, the court dismisses the financial claims against Ms. Carter. Any further action by Financial Recovery Group will be subject to federal scrutiny. Ms. Carter, you are free from this debt. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. The weight she had carried for years, the fear, the hopelessness, vanished in an instant. But Musk wasn't done. He turned to her with a small smile. I know this debt has cost you more than money. It's cost you time, sleep, peace of mind. So, I'd like to offer you something else. Emily barely managed to whisper, What? Musk chuckled. A fresh start. He turned back to the courtroom, his voice carrying a final bombshell. I'm personally covering every penny of Ms. Carter's remaining financial burdens. And if she's interested, she'll have a job waiting for her at one of my companies. The room exploded. Emily burst into tears. Liam, who had been watching from the back, ran toward her and threw his arms around her. Reporters screamed questions. Social media went insane. Coleman slumped in his chair, knowing the fight was over. And as Emily hugged her son tightly, overwhelmed with gratitude, she realized something. This wasn't just about her. Elon Musk had just changed the game for thousands of people trapped in the same cycle. And the fight wasn't over yet. Emily Carter stood in the courtroom, her mind spinning in disbelief as the judge's final ruling echoed in her ears. Ms. Carter, you are free from this debt. For the first time in years, the crushing weight she had carried, the endless bills, the fear of eviction, the sleepless nights, was lifted. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she held onto Liam, who clung to her as if sensing the monumental shift in their lives. But even as relief washed over her, she struggled to comprehend the sheer magnitude of what had just happened. The journalists outside were already reporting live on the case, their voices urgent as they relayed the news to millions of viewers. Elon Musk had just dismantled an entire predatory lending scheme on live television. His unexpected intervention had not only freed her from a financial nightmare but had exposed the larger corruption at play. The internet was ablaze with reactions. Hashtags like #JusticeForEmily, #Musk versus corporate greed, and #FinancialReformNow were trending worldwide. But Emily barely had time to process it all before Musk turned to face her directly. Emily, he said, his voice carrying a calm authority. I know this has been a difficult fight. You've been through hell trying to provide for your son, and the system failed you. I can't change the past, but I can help shape the future. She blinked at him, still overwhelmed. I don't even know what to say. How do I even begin to thank you? Musk chuckled slightly. No need to thank me. I just saw something that needed fixing. Then, his expression grew serious. I meant what I said earlier. I want to do more than just erase your debt. I want to offer you a job. A stable one. You shouldn't have to work 3 jobs just to survive. I have positions available at Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, you name it. We'll find something that suits your skills. Emily's breath caught in her throat. A job? A real, stable job? One that wouldn't require her to work 16-hour days just to barely keep a roof over her head? She had never dared to dream of something like this. But I don't have a degree, she said hesitantly. I never got the chance to finish school. I don't know if I'd even be qualified for anything at your companies. Musk smiled. You have perseverance. That's more valuable than any diploma. We can train you. The entire courtroom was silent, every ear tuned in to this extraordinary conversation. Richard Coleman, the once arrogant corporate lawyer, sat stiffly in his chair, staring down at his notes, as if hoping to disappear from the narrative altogether. Emily hesitated. It all felt surreal, too good to be true. But why? Why are you doing this? Musk's expression softened. Because I've been where you are. He gestured slightly. Not exactly, of course. But I know what it's like to struggle. To sleep on a couch, to wonder how you'll make it to the next day. The system is broken. It rewards those at the top and crushes those at the bottom. If I have the means to level the playing field, why wouldn't I? Emily had no words. Her lips trembled as she squeezed Liam's hand, knowing this wasn't just a chance for her, it was a future for her son. Just then, a court official entered, whispering something to the judge, who nodded solemnly before addressing the room. In light of the evidence presented today, federal authorities have opened a full-scale investigation into Horizon Capital and its subsidiaries, including Financial Recovery Group. Any individuals affected by their lending practices will be invited to submit claims for compensation. Additionally, I am placing a permanent injunction against any further collection efforts on Ms. Carter or others found to be unlawfully indebted. The reaction was instantaneous. Reporters gasped, cameras flashed, and the murmurs swelled into outright cheers from those in the gallery. Emily wasn't just free, she was part of something much bigger. As she wiped her tears, she turned to Musk and, for the first time in years, allowed herself to believe in a future that wasn't dictated by fear. "I'd love to accept your offer," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. Musk grinned. "Welcome aboard." Outside the courthouse, the moment that changed everything. The moment Emily and Musk stepped outside, they were bombarded by a sea of reporters. Microphones were shoved in their direction, cameras rolled, and excited chatter filled the air. "Mr. Musk, what's next for Financial Recovery Group?" "Ms. Carter, how does it feel to have your life changed in a single day?" "Elon, is this the beginning of a bigger financial reform movement?" Musk raised a hand to silence the noise, and the crowd actually listened. He turned toward the cameras, eyes sharp with purpose. "This isn't just about Emily Carter. This is about the millions of people being crushed by a system that wasn't designed to help them. Today was a victory, but it's just the beginning." The crowd erupted into applause, and the internet went wild. Emily, standing beside him, felt an unfamiliar sensation, hope. For the first time in years, she wasn't just trying to survive. She had been given a chance to live. 1 month later, Emily Carter stood in front of a sleek, modern office building, her hands clutching a brand-new employee badge. The letters Tesla Energy were boldly printed above her name, a stark contrast to the exhaustion-worn name tags she had worn in all her past jobs. For the first time in her life, she wasn't about to clock into a grueling shift just to scrape by. Instead, she was about to begin a career. It still felt like a dream. Since that dramatic day in court, her life had completely transformed. With Musk's help, she had secured a high-paying job in Tesla's customer service and logistics department. An entry-level position with full benefits, room for growth, and best of all, reasonable hours. No more 16-hour workdays, no more sleepless nights juggling 3 jobs. She had a stable income, health insurance for the first time in years, and enough breathing room to finally focus on her son, Liam. And speaking of Liam, he was thriving. With their financial struggles behind them, he had fully re-engaged in school, excelling in math and science, which caught the attention of his teachers. Just last week, he had come home beaming, waving a flyer for an upcoming STEM competition. "Mom, I get to build a solar-powered robot," he had exclaimed excitedly. Emily had almost cried right then and there. 4 years, she had fought to keep him from seeing just how broken their lives had become. Now, for the first time, he could dream beyond survival. But Musk wasn't done surprising her yet. A private meeting with Musk. The final gift. Emily's heart pounded as she stepped into the private conference room inside Tesla's headquarters. She had been told Musk wanted to meet with her one last time before he left for a SpaceX project, but she had no idea why. The billionaire sat casually at the table, a glass of water in front of him, tapping at his phone before looking up with his signature smirk. "Emily," he greeted. "How's the first month been?" She took a deep breath, still amazed that she could talk to him so casually. "Honestly, life-changing. I can't thank you enough. Not just for me, but for my son." Musk nodded, as if pleased. "That's good to hear." He paused for a moment, then slid a manila envelope across the table. "But I have one last thing for you." Emily hesitated before picking it up, carefully pulling out the documents inside. The moment she read the first few lines, her hands began to shake. The papers weren't job-related. They were deeds. To a house. A fully paid-for home in a quiet neighborhood just outside Los Angeles. Hers. Tears immediately welled in her eyes. "Elon, I can't accept this," she whispered, overwhelmed. "You've already done so much." Musk leaned back in his chair, looking unfazed. "Emily, do you know how much I make in a second?" She wiped at her tears, sniffling. I don't." "Neither do I," he joked, making her laugh through her sobs. Then, he grew more serious. "Look, I didn't do this for PR. I did it because you deserved a fair shot, and the system didn't give you one. Now, you don't have to worry about rent ever again. You and Liam have a place to call home." Emily covered her mouth, the weight of it all crashing down on her. 4 years, she had lived in constant fear, of eviction, of homelessness, of not being able to provide for her son. Now, that fear was gone. She had a job. She had a home. She had a future. And it was all because one person had decided to care. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at him, truly speechless. "I don't know how to ever repay you." Musk simply shrugged. "Just pay it forward when you can." And with that, he stood, gave her a casual salute, and walked out of the room, off to change the world once again.